showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we are going to be talking tough on the state of the nation, Liberia. What is the state of the nation, Liberia, as we go towards elections 2023? How is Liberia doing? Where are we? What is the direction of the country? In which direction are we going? Bear in mind, we are not naive to think that we can sit here and do a complete diagnostic of the entire country sector by sector to arrive at a prognosis of the state of affairs of our nation just right here tonight. What we intend to do here, ladies and gentlemen, is to get you to pause and reflect as to where we are as a country at this critical junction leading towards elections 2023. Many say election 2023 is a consequential elections. And so we want to do a pulse check on our country, Liberia. Many things have happened within the last 60 days. And so it's very important to take a pause and say, where are we? My panelists tonight, which I call the best panelists in diaspora internet television, will be looking at this very important question and want you, our audience or our audiences, to be able to come up with the state of the nation. Okay, that's what we are going to do tonight. I want to mention, though, that we are not going to be engaging in pontification and prognostication because we are not here for conjectures and innuendos. I want to go a little bit satire on you to tell you that I'm from Sino County. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. Let me welcome Mr. Amula Mame, who's going to tell us the state of the nation tonight. Amula is an agri economist. Amula, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Tough Talking Thursday.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you to the other colleagues for joining. Looking forward to a healthy discussion.
And Amula, this is your first time on Tough Talking Thursday where we don't engage in any form of tabata. Welcome again. Enjoy the show.
Thank you.
I want to also welcome Mr. Jonathan Tayo Dolake. Jonathan is a proud member of ANC, but he's not representing ANC here tonight. He's representing the Jonathan Dolake clan. Jonathan, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Thank you so very kindly, and thanks to all the brilliant people on this platform today.
I also want to welcome my man from Philadelphia, Kalabo Gonglo. Mr. Kalabo Gonglo, the guy who eats, drink, and sleep statistics. Mr. Gonglo, what is the state of the nation? That's what we will be discussing tonight. Welcome to the show. You are on mute, sir. That's what we will be discussing tonight.
Well, I'm sorry, I was muted. Thank you. I'm happy to share the stage with respected people like Ahmed, I see Dolake, and Mr. Coffee. These are guys I have respect for. I've not seen Ahmed and Dolake before, but I'm happy to share the stage with them again. And let me say I'm also the brother of Councillor Tiawan Gonglo, a presidential candidate.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that disclaimer. This is the brother of one of the presidential aspirants. Next, let me welcome our governance consultant, Mr. Adman Shalif. Adman, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Thank you, Dennis. It's always a pleasure. Let's do it. This is what we do every Thursday night.
We have also Mr. Alex Coffey. That's the former FBI for money for Liberia. Mr. Coffey is from the FOL marketplace team. So talking about the state of the nation, we cannot forget money, the economy, and everything in between there. Mr. Coffey, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday.
Thank you, Dennis, and thanks to my fellow panelists, and I also greet the people in the listening land.
Thank you so much. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Tough Talking Thursday, where we don't engage in any form of tabata. So tonight we're going to be discussing the state of the nation. As I said, each of my panelists will take a little piece, and based on that, tell us do an assessment of the state of the nation. At this time, let me start with Mr. Jonathan C. Dolake. Dolake, what is the state of the nation as we go towards election 2023? What do you see?
Thank you so kindly again for giving me this opportunity. From an assessment of the state of the nation, Liberia, October 20, 2022, from the investment climate perspective, from the security perspective, and from the rule of law, I see a state that requires redemption. I see a state of affairs that requires intervention in its immediate. I see a state, because the component of the state is our state in particular. A Republican state is the legislature, the judiciary, the executive. And what I see with our state of affairs currently from the business climate is quite appalling. I see a country that its officials of government from both the legislature and the executive have come on critical sanction of our country. I see a state that we have the judiciary also been questioned and have been questioned by other international partners of not dispensing justice in its adequate manner. I see a state that is polarized with problems, and there should be a solution to build confidence, firstly, and secondly, to attract the needed business climate investment that will enhance the growth of our people, that will bring about healthcare, that will bring about job creation and employment, and that will create the environment of security in human as well as food. So I see a desperate state that requires immediate intervention, as it is currently. That's the state of affairs that I currently see. Void of politics. That's what I realistically see from where I sit.
And why so?
I think over the years, and not very peculiar or definite to this government, it has been due to lack of accountability, lack of following the rule of law, lack of system and control. And what I made it worse under this regime is that they lack the technical know-how. Not even when those suggestions have been provided, like this kind of platform that you have, and several others that have been available to them to tap upon it, and they remain entrenched in their thinking and just stealing the wealth of the people. Not only that, but blackmailing the reputation of the country, and also insulting the intelligence of our people. I think it's due to corruption and wanton corruption.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have Mr. Jonathan Dolake giving the state of the nation. Let me give you a little background, because as I watched things unfold over the period of these 30 days, and the news continue to flow through the airwaves as to things that are happening in Liberia. I mean, it could be the 14-year-old who is sodomizing a 2-year-old. It can be the counterfeit money. It can be the appointment of Tim Cummings. It could be the millions of dollars the World Bank again has given to Liberia. It can be the trash. So many things have been happening. So I'm saying it could be from leges, the election commission, the timetable, and everything everywhere. What is the state of the nation? Let me bring in Mr. Ambula Mame to tell us what is the state of the nation as we go towards election 2023. Mr. Mame. On mute, please.
Thank you, Dennis. When you asked about the state of the country, of the economy, I want to look at it from a sector perspective. I want to look at it from the agriculture sector perspective. Liberia is hungry. Liberians are hungrier today than they were when George Weah met them in 2018. The nation is food insecure. We rely heavily on imported rice. Most of the rice we import are low quality, leading to food-related non-communicable diseases that people have in Liberia because quality control is a problem. The agriculture sector that should be able to address our food insecurity and nutrition problem has failed us again. Not the first time, not the second time, it has failed us again. The sector is failing us because the current president we have has high tolerance. He has high tolerance for corruption and incompetence. Managers of the sector are focused and prioritizing large-scale agricultural investment by Firestone, by Firestone, and all those other agricultural conglomerates in the country. They pay keen attention to them, they prioritize them, consider them a success story. But those companies are focused on cash crop production for export purposes. Our smallholder farmers who are investing their time and resources in producing food crops are not prioritized. So that is the state of our country. I see a country hungry, a country hungrier than we have met in 2018, a country whose agriculture sector has failed to deliver its full needs, a country whose agriculture managers have prioritized large-scale agriculture investment that engages and focus in the production of cash crop for export purposes and abandon the underlying root causes that make our smallholder farmers who are focused on producing food crops to not be able to produce. Not me saying it, the records are there. The African Union every other 2 years conducts biannual review on the progress of nation toward agricultural transformation. Since 2018 to today, Liberia has been consistently ranked not on track. We failed 22 of the 24 indicators towards agricultural transformation. We failed 22 of the 24 indicators, passing only 2. We are not making decisions based on science and evidence. We feel that. So it is not me saying it. The World Bank ease of doing business for agriculture specifically. How countries are making investment in agriculture easier, especially through policy making and policy implementation for smallholder farmers. Liberia ranked the least. Countries in crisis are performing better than us in terms of creating the enabling environment for investment in agriculture. Farmers in Liberia today, when they produce rice 2 times less than what their counterparts are producing in Ivory Coast. That is our problem. Only 2% of our farmers have access to high quality seeds. The remaining 98% are exposed to substandard seeds from all around the sub-region. Addressing that problem requires a leader who have no tolerance for incompetence and corruption, who is willing to sit and discuss the evidence and use it to solve the underlying root causes. The current president has tolerance for corruption. He has tolerance for incompetence. He doesn't have interest in agriculture but pretend to have so. That is the state of country I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambula Mame, saying the state of the nation has been hungry. Let me go to Mr. Ellis Coffey to tell me the state of the nation based on the prevailing circumstances and your professional background, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. You know, I have visited a lot of countries, mostly for work and sometimes for vacation. And then I've lived in 3 countries. I lived in Liberia, my own country, back and forth. I lived in Ghana. I worked in Ghana, and I also live in the United States of America. I have seen, for example, I had an example where in Ghana, in Accra, I was in the Texas running late for a meeting, and I told, by that time I was living in the States, and I went to visit Ghana. So I told the taxi driver he should cut corners. I said, my friend, I'm running late for my meeting. He said, hey, Charlie, I'm not going to do that. Or if the police catch me, I'm not going to pay to impound my car and take my car. And then in the US, I see that a simple thing like the stop sign. Why do people stop at the stop sign, whether there's no police or you flip that, you take that to Liberia. If you got in a taxi in Liberia, in Monrovia, I mean, you could tell the taxi driver to speed. You could tell the taxi driver will drive on the other side of the road and things like that. What is the comparison here? Because there is a culture of what we call impunity, or a culture of doing the right thing, whether nobody is looking. All right? In the United States, people will stop at the stop sign because they understand the consequences. They understand that if they pass through that stop sign, there could be a police siren behind them and there will be a fat ticket. In Accra, the guy understood that if he ran on the side and he ran the traffic, he would have been arrested by the police and his vehicle was going to be impounded. In Monrovia, it's the other way around. Over the years, over a number of years, I mean, number of years, more than 20 years ago, and even now, we've built a culture of impunity in our country because we do not enforce the laws that we have on the books. Corruption has permeated our society to the extent that it impedes development, it impedes economic growth. We cook the books with even the way we report our inflation numbers, the way we report, the way we play with the exchange rate. These things have the way of preventing even foreign direct investment into our country, and also a hamper employment. Because if, for example, for every contract or every investor that goes into the country, as we know now from the sanction that was put on 3 of our officials who eventually resigned, that investors going into the country were asked to pay bribes. And so good money don't chase bad places. Good money go to good places because people want to make a profit. So as a result, people are afraid of going to invest in our country because their investment will not be protected because there will be a lot of corruption. Somebody spoke about doing business, right? We don't ease doing business in a country because of corruption. We make the process of even registering a company too long because everybody wants a cut. It is because the tune has not been set at the top, and I mean at the presidency. The tune has to be set at the top. From year in, year out, we have not had that leader who will set the tune at the top, because we human beings will learn to follow our leader. That's my introduction. So as a result, our country is seeing less economic growth at the pace that it should have, other than the pace that it should have gone and developed. Our country should have been developed. While our neighboring countries are making more progress, we are still struggling because we have instituted corruption to the extent that our former president even admitted that one of the things he did not do well was corruption. And currently, we have all the evidence, especially when a foreign nation sanctions your 3 of your key officials for corruption, then you know that corruption has permeated the society to the extent that it impedes economic growth and it hampers the people. That's why our people are getting poor and poorer, and our country is getting poor.
So, Mr. Coffee, if you say the state of the nation is, what would be that one word?
Corrupt.
You're corrupt.
Corrupt. The state of the nation is corrupt. That's Mr. Alexander Coffee. Let me bring in Mr. Kalebo Gonglo. Mr. Gonglo, what is the state of the nation currently? On mute, please.
You know, listening to Mr. Coffee and Ambalai, it kind of mirror what I wanted to say, really. I would say, I would put it this way. I think the state of the nation is in chaos. That's the one word I would say. We are, under President, Liberia is in chaos. Now, what do I mean by this? If you look at Liberia today, all of the indicators that Ambalai talk about via AU review or annual report, if you listen to Mr. Coffee, all of the issues he outlined on corruption, the single things that are responsible for that is because we don't have a reform-minded leader in Liberia today. And we never had that for a long time. Not just we are. We've never had leaders who are focused on reforming the system and enforcing the rule, enforcing standards. We don't have that. So part of the thing where Liberians are not inherently corrupt. Why is it that Liberians work in all the systems, like the United Nations, they work in the United States, work in all the systems and do well? They are not charged with corruption. So corruption is not something that is unique and culturally accepted, that once you're Liberian, you are corrupt. No. It is the system in Liberia that has made Liberians to appear to engage in corruption. So we need a leader, all of them what President Salif did. We need a radical, reform-minded leader to shake the system. Someone who has an enviable record on fighting corruption and resisting corruption. That's what we need. So Liberia today is in total chaos because President Weah lacks vision. He lacks understanding of how the state should function. So, like I was saying earlier to one of my friends today, if you look at President Weah view on the way he sees Liberia is so myopic, it's so narrow that we have the executive law that even talk about distribution of government jobs to show regional balance, geographic balance. If you do the statistics today, 98% of President Weah appointees are from one single region. If I may, and I don't feel shy about this, are from two ethnic groups, basically, Kru and Grebo. I don't mean that Kru people are tribalistic. I don't mean that Grebo people are tribalistic, but we are lacks the understanding of how the state should function, how a functioning state should cater to the rest of the citizenry. He doesn't understand that. So the problem is not even with the people around him. The problem is we are lack of understanding how a government, a national government should function. So he has put the state in chaos today in Liberia. I would say that, and there are more evidences to even support that. I see a state that there is a falling standard in education and in health. We've debated this. Some people say, well, Liberian students take national exam, WAEC, and they perform well. That passing public test is not a standard. The same group of students take WAEC, they enter the University of Liberia, according to our other university, you ask them to write a simple essay, or those who have been at the end of employment, like Mr. Confident, they'll tell you they see a letter of application from somebody who is a graduate from college. That person made probably a perfect pass, or made a pass in WAEC anyway, saying that's a standard. People argue on that. And the person can even write a fitting or friendly letter, not even a letter of application. Okay? So the standard of education is falling. The standard of healthcare is falling. Everything is falling. You go to JFK, you don't find drugs in JFK, but the Indians control the health system. They control our health administrators. They gave them contracts. You go to JFK, you go to any government-run facility, they direct you to a particular pharmacy you must go to buy your drugs because it's where people have struck their deal, okay, for kickback. So These are all forms of corruption. These are corruption in different forms. Okay. The state of the nation today, I will say to you also that corruption, to say there is corruption, I think is even an understatement. If there was any description beyond corruption, the system is failing. Liberia is failing in a time of peace. We have a peaceful nation. We have experienced peace since the end of our war for more than 14 years now. Yet, our country is failing. We have a state that is failing in terms of peace. And it's because of President Weah. President Weah came to power with a vision that he was a change agent. He failed to audit the legislature. I am convinced, given President Weah's popularity, given the fact that he can direct the legislature to even pass Iboma contract, which all financial experts say he didn't meet even the minimum standard. President Weah just called the legislature and said, "You're passing," and they passed it 4G. If you were to say to GSC, "Let's audit the legislature," they would have succumbed. President Weah failed to audit the Sali Executive Mansion. He came, he said he was changing the narrative. He failed to do all those. He got rid of people who meant well to fight corruption. The example is right here, Ellis Coffey. He put people who could do well, who could help him out of the system.
Thank you. According to Mr.
The state is in chaos. That's my conclusion.
Thank you. That's Mr. Kalebo Gonglo. The state of the nation is in chaos. Let me go to Mr. Ahmed Salif. Mr. Salif, what is the state of our nation, Liberia?
Thank you again, Dennis. Unfortunately, the state of our nation is weak. The state of our nation is fragile. I just want to read to you the UN, United Nations Standard for Good Governance. You know, some the core elements of good governance. They talk about the core elements of good governance to include transparency, integrity, lawfulness, participation of the citizens, of the citizenry, you know, agency, free will, the ability to have voice, sound public policy, right? Strategic public policy options that lead to all kinds of growth and prosperity, accountability, responsiveness, right? And these are not just words. These are, you know, each of these is what the Human Development Index, HDI, is anchored on, right? So government responsiveness to that social contract with the citizens, the basic social services that government is ought to be providing to the people, and what is government doing to protect its citizens, how responsive when there's a flood, when there's rice shortage or some kind of natural disaster, how responsive is the government, ease of doing business, other colleagues have talked about. That's really what that responsiveness, emphasizing that because it's very key for everyday governance. The absence of corruption. Everybody has talked about corruption, right? A key element of good governance should be absence of corruption. If not a total absence, in most African countries, unfortunately, is the case here, but at least the minimization of corruption so that state can be responsive. And then avoidance of wrongdoing. Wrongdoing, for example, is what led to our three high-level government officials to be sanctioned. Right. So I just looked up the HDI that I just mentioned, the Human Development Index, and this is a rubric, the index, the HDI that the United Nations has established, and based upon which it evaluates how countries are doing around the world on a number of governance scores. There are three key components of the HDI. Right. You have to ensure that there's high life expectancy. So what is the life expectancy of your population? High quality education outcome and per capita income. So on all these scores, Liberia is weak and fragile, it's not doing well. When I check again, our aggregate HDI score, I think is 0.0481. Okay, so unfortunately, on all of these major governance elements that I've talked about, each of which is so consequential to how well the country is doing. So, for example, if you look at macroeconomic development, that our economic people and finance people like to tout that they've brought the inflation rate down in the country, right? There's a thing called national account. The balance of payment of the country. So this measures our export-import ratio, right? So how well are we doing? Liberia has an what's called export deficit. So we import more than we export, right? We have most of our consumables are imported. Most of the goods and services are imported and importable to the country. So, we can go to the look at the balance of payment and national accounts. Those are technical things, a macroeconomic frame that I'm not going to go into right now. Maybe later on in the show. And now that we have Mr. Coffee here, they are the experts in those areas. But I'm just telling you in terms of governance, we're not doing well with participation. One thing we hear often this administration, and I'm not going to say that President Weah is responsible for all of these. Because these problems, most of them preceded President Weah, unfortunately. However, I think that governance piece, a lack of strong governance and strong public policy options have really exacerbated these problems that we have.
Thank you. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching, this is Tough Talking Thursday. We are discussing the state of the nation. So if you're watching, in the comment section, tell us the state of the nation. So, gentlemen, let me start with Mr. Coffee here on the state of the nation. So some of the things that we've heard tonight, the state of the nation is corrupt. The state of the nation is hungry. The state of the nation is in chaos. The state of the nation is fragile and weak, among others. Some may say, what is responsible for what you have diagnosed? And as you always hear that this thing started since 1822, right? Some say 1847. So let me start with Mr. Coffee. What is responsible for the state of the nation that you have described?
I would say that in one word: leadership, or lack thereof. Lack of leadership. Since the year that you're talking about, if you look at our history, sometimes when you say these things, some people think that you were talking to one section of the country. No. When we say from 1822 or 1847 to now, we are covering everybody. We're not covering one side of the country. Okay, we are not looking at a region. We're not looking at a particular tribe, because almost every region and every tribe has been tried and tested at the presidency. So we're not talking about one side. But these things, the lack of leadership started, I will put it simple, from 19 Okay, we have not had the proper leader. Yeah, we have had a chance at some good-hearted people and good-hearted leader who could have changed, but their term was cut short. For example, President Talbot, the late Talbot, he was a good leader who wanted to see changes, but unfortunately, his non-alignment alignment statement stuff led to the shortcut of his tenure. But over the years, we have not had that selfless leader. We have not had that leader who will take our country to ensure that there's good governance. Good governance is assured. By good governance, I mean the proper people put in place. Madam Ellen Johnson Steady started that in her term for her first 4 to 5 years, but unfortunately, from the 5th year going, something different happened. You need to have a leader who will ensure that the rule of law is implemented, is enforced to the latter, and people face the consequences. You need to have a leader who will ensure that there will be a culture of obeying rules and regulation. There will be a culture of doing the right thing. You will need to have a leader who can fight corruption, who can minimize corruption, who him or herself will put himself out there that, hey, police director, if I hear or if there's a report that taxi driver take $5 from anybody, you are fired. The next person in line can't take that job. As a result of all this.
So Mr. Coffee,
yes,
not to cut you short. So, what has, because you said the state of the nation is corrupt, what has this corruption done? And do you have examples to tell us as to how, some of the examples of corruption and how this has undermined Liberia's growth and development, or how it's going to, or the negative impact it's going to have towards election 2023?
If, for example, right, the way corruption goes is not just with the small people. Corruption starts from the top, right? If, for example, one of the things that officials can do is to channel money through even infrastructure development, and abuse of the procurement process to favor companies that they want or companies that they have share in, to get kickbacks. Because if for example you're doing a road project and you give it to you jump over the entire procurement process and you give it to your favorite company, because you feel that you will give that company 50% of the total cost of the project up front so that they can give you 25% back. That impedes the process of building that road. And then if the road is not built properly, you come and put additional money on top. That money that should have gone to healthcare or education, it restricts people from getting quality healthcare. It restricts people from funding the schools for people to get quality education. And also it impedes the market mechanism to the extent that it can even increase prices on the market for the ordinary man to get the goods that they want to even go and eat. And it could lead to rent shortages as well.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Mame. So agriculture, I know you say this is very important. That's why you are using agriculture has the stand say the state of the nation is hungry, right? This same question is people may say this is an old age problem. Where do you see the country going with this level of hunger that you have described?
The country is now on track. And I'm just quoting the ECOWAS biannual review assessment on the progress towards agricultural transformation. Like the Millennium Challenge Cooperative Agreement can track development indicators in Africa, and we all use those indicators to measure the performance of government. We in the agriculture sector, we pay keen attention to the biannual review under the Comprehensive Africa Development Program that tracks country progress towards agricultural transformation specifically. So the difference between the MCC scorecard and our agricultural scorecard is that agricultural scorecard focuses specifically on agriculture, while MCC focuses on several other different things. So consistently, our country has been ranked since 2018 to today, the last two reports, has been ranked as not on track towards agricultural transformation. So we're not even on track. So we are not on track. How are we not on track? There are different ways you can measure. There are different things to point to tell you that we're not on track. Incompetence.
So Mr. Mame, as we go toward election 2023, and we are not on track agriculture-wise, the nation is hungry. Are you hearing any, and definitely if the nation is hungry and we have a president who is presiding over a hungry nation, definitely you will want an alternative. Are you hearing any message that can feed the people, that can satisfy the hunger so that the state is not hungry anymore? Where can we look?
To be honest, a real hasn't come out. It will eventually come out, but a real strong message hasn't come out. I listened to former Vice President Joseph Boakai yesterday, respecting elderly men, spoke well about his plans. His comment on agriculture was disappointing to me. I didn't see him coming strong as somebody having a deeper understanding of the problem and the clear pathway on how he wants to address it. Like every other president who have, every other person in the presidential campaign and who have eventually become president in Liberia will tell you make Liberia self-sufficient in food production. Will make Liberia self-sufficient in food production. You check in all the platforms, you see that. We'll grow what we eat or we'll eat what we grow. You hear that, or it become a cliche. It's all over. But I mean, systematic approach, 2 years, 3 years, segmented plans, segmented strategy to segmented problems. That a presidential candidate can say, we have diagnosed 6 major fundamental root causes of why we've not been able to address our agricultural problem. In the first 3 years, we address this. That agenda is coming up. You will see it. It will communicate to our people. They will feel it. They will know that solution is on the way. Unlike everything you're hearing about, we'll make ourselves self-sufficient, we'll grow what we eat and eat what we grow. There's not strong message yet to the people. The people are still waiting to see who can help them address this problem. So that was just to answer your question. The message hasn't really gotten down to them.
Thank you, Mr. Salif. You studied elections. You know when these things are happening at this time towards election. The way all of you have described the state of the nation, what impact do you think is going to have on the election? Or put another way, will the prognosis that have been provided tonight, will it significantly impact the way people are going to vote? Mute us, sir. Unmute yourself, please.
I think you muted me. I didn't realize. I was saying. Okay, I was saying. You know, the different studies, different experts. Some of them have come on this platform and talked about the Liberian voter. Some said that the electorate, with all due respect to our people, the voters are not issues voters, which I disagree with. You know. Yeah, but so to answer your question, of course, everything we've talked about in any ideal election, in any normal, regular election, dealing with the psychology of electoral politics, of course, these are things that should impact and influence people's votes, because electoral politics is about winning hearts and minds, and how you win hearts and minds is what Mr. Mami and others were pointing to. You have to show the how. You can't just talk about, you know, come with a sort of a laundry list of things that people have heard before, right? The question is, how do you contrast? So a key electoral campaign strategy is to show contrast, to show that I'm different. I have different ideas, better ideas. Here's how I am different. And here's how I'm going to accomplish X, Y, Z. These are the reasons why. Here's the data. Here's what we have is, you know, this is the baseline. This is where we are. This is the state of things at play. And, you know, if you remain with this guy, you will continue to probably even go worse than from where you are. If you come with me, I'll take you here and there and there, and this is how I'm going to do that. We're not seeing that. So it's not an excitable field right now, unfortunately. I mean, you know, my friends in all the camps will come at me and they'll call me, but it's not excitable. You, like you said, I listened to, you know, former Vice President Barkai, right? If you want to defeat an incumbent, look, the election is yours to lose. You have to show contrast. You have to demonstrate to the people that, listen, this president, this administration has failed you. Here's how this administration has failed you. You point, the people will know because they're feeling it, right? You talk about the food insecurity in the country, particularly rice, the lack of rice on the market. We should not even be in the first place. Everybody always talks about this. Thank God we have an agricultural expert on the show. We shouldn't even be here. In terms of development, if we are on track growing agriculture or, you know, investing in the ag sector, in the agricultural economy, there's a whole different sort of value chains or ways of doing agriculture one could talk about for a country our size, for a country that has sort of the productive capacity like ours or the lack thereof, right? So yes, you can go and deliver your messages, your campaign messages, your stump speeches to different segment of the population using some of these issues, but I don't know whether that will move anything really, because we've also seen in previous elections and our current political system that politics is a lot about personality and how much, so-called cash violence, how much money somebody can give you, sort of quick impact, impulsive campaign projects and things like that. Those things sway our people as well. So we're really in a bind. We're in a difficult spot when it comes to trying to even strategize around how you move hearts and minds and influence people's votes.
Mr. Gonglo, you talk about chaos. The state of the nation is in chaos. If you can unmute yourself, how do we put this back together? How do we get order in the system again to avoid this chaos that you have described?
Well, I think the first place to begin is to begin to make our institutions strong. Build our institution, particularly integrity institution, the three branches of government, the leaders of these three branches of government, we should strengthen their capacity. They should be able to be independent, stand up. The president, we should have a legislature that can actually really exercise their oversight responsibility. We should have a legislature that should even counter executive bill. But historically, we all know that the legislature has been an extension of the executive mansion. That president in and president out, the conduct, the characteristics of the legislators remain the same. Okay, the same is for the judiciary. In some instances, in fact, I can talk on what I know, but I know of a particular case. It involved procurement issue between LPRC and some business people, and and PPCC was involved, and I happened to be a very close confidant and brother of the PPC boss at the time. And the decision the Supreme Court took, that decision was written in President Salih's office because someone was in that meeting and someone from the Ministry of Justice was there, LPRC representative was there, and somebody from the judiciary was there, and they sat and they said, this is the way we should compromise this case, because a dispute out of the procurement process went to court and went as far as the Supreme Court. A decision was going to be made. That decision was made right there at the president's office, and the decision, just as it was worded in that meeting, is exactly how the Supreme Court worded its opinion on that matter. So you can see that you don't have strong institutions. So we need to strengthen our institution, stand up and uphold standards. Ja, I will tell you this, and I will say this to the listeners. I've made this comment before. When I work in government briefly, I had a situation where under the labor laws, we say for foreigners to work in Liberia, there must be the absence of the skill they have for them to work. I guess that's how it's worded in many countries, even in the US. To get H1B, I think H1B visa, the company must prove that the skill of that foreign worker is either in short supply. They can't find. They've made announcement. They can't find. It's the same way as worded in Liberia. Okay, so but the labor law itself is not in isolation. When you do, we say all applicable laws. So you have the liberalization law that set aside, I believe, 26 businesses exclusively for Liberia. Doing business is an employment. So when I was on the committee, actually chair of the committee. And I'm not a lawyer, so I said, look, this is what the law says. These guys, I didn't go to law school, and my bosses were lawyers. I said, okay, this is it. So here is my proposal. I wrote the guidelines, and I said, look, this liberalization act say certain businesses must be set aside for Liberia, like making blocks, mining sand, used cars, used clothing, all this stuff, water ice, block ice. So I said, okay. So for a foreigner to apply, I will ask them for the business registration that they're working on to produce a business registration. And the point I was driving, I was, if you apply and your business is used cars or used clothing or something that is within that 26 businesses, for me, it's a violation of the law. You should be denied work permit. You should not work in Liberia because you are actually in violation of one of our laws. That was my recommendation then to, my boss, that this should be the case. And I've not been a lawyer. I said, but Commerce Ministry has registered these people under that. I said, no. If Commerce Minister decided to not respect the law, I am under obligation to uphold Liberian law. And they said, no, under the regular law, we are co-equal. You can, no, they quoted something to convince me. I'm not a lawyer, right? So I have to jump. But if I have the chance, I am under obligation to uphold all laws. If the others don't uphold it, it's none of my business. So, and I think we should strengthen our institution that way. People of integrity should mind our institution and stand up to uphold the law. That's what we should do.
Thank you. Mr. Tayo, you talk about the business climate and the confidence to attract investment. And then we listed all the different things that are happening according to the panelists tonight, the state of the nation. If you look around, I know you belong to a political party, but if you look around, do you see any presidential candidate or aspirant with the kind of plan? And next week, we're going to be discussing plans right here. But do you see any aspirant talking about the kind of plan that is going to fix what we are talking about tonight? For instance, and you can pick any one of them, we talk about the state of the nation being hungry, being corrupt, being in chaos, weak and fragile, and not attractive business environment. Do you see anybody who has plans to fix these things? And what specifically?
And when I spoke about attraction of investment. I spoke about this situation and the broad look at our current economy, and I placed it in segment, the three branches of government, and came to the point of corruption, good governance, and everything can fall right under corruption until we can learn to applaud people for good behavior and punish people for bad behavior. All of the things we are listed, everything ranging from infrastructure, from agriculture, education, healthcare delivery, none of them going to be realizable until we can pin and end impunity, we end corruption in our country. Corruption creates so much hiccups. It's the long hiccups for the forward march of our country. And I know for a certainty that we are not seeking Puritan to lead our country, but I see individuals with characteristics that can nip corruption and bring it to, fight it so that our country can move ahead. Because, Dennis, we want investment to come. Investment will not come to our country when we cannot get rid of corruption. When we have people undercutting the decision of national government. You have followed the issue of why McGill and the rest of the guys have been sanctioned, because they are taking away from Liberians what should go to healthcare, what should go to censor, what should go to schools. Most of these people that are coming to invest in our country, they are coming to invest in different sectors. People are coming to a partnership with Liberians into agriculture, because development of a country moves to the private sector, not necessarily the government. Government only creates the environment. So for you to have plane flying to your country, you have to have your airport conducive. You don't have to have the lights going on regularly. The navigator must be functioning. You have to drag the port of Sando County. You cannot be stealing the money that of Biltuari, having companies that have interest in that investment. Absolutely, we are going to go nowhere. So Coffee says something that is very important. And Mr. Cummings, for instance, I am not mentioning it for any other reason, talked about setting the tone. All of us on this platform, when we were all living in Liberia, if you schedule a meeting for us, would either deliberately be late or would deliberately violate the traffic laws. But none of us were accept to go late to receive our visa, not even to come into this country and violate traffic rules. Why are we different in Liberia and different here? It is because the tone is set at the leadership level. It's set on the basic rule of law.
Mr. Dolake,
Yeah.
have you seen anyone, for instance, fighting corruption? Have you seen any presidential aspirant with a clear plan as to how they're going to fight corruption? I'm talking about the how. Have you seen one?
Yes, I've seen one. I've seen one, and I can clearly speak to that.
Okay. Let me hear the how.
Saying, firstly, corruption must be fought with both face. And the way to fight corruption is to even condemn your own when they go wrong. I've seen the instant case that the senators, the lawmakers received 30,000, and by our financial management regime, lawmakers should not be receiving anything to execute any function or projects on behalf of its people, its constituents, other than their benefits. And many persons would not like to. I have not seen a lot of political leaders condemn those lawmakers that supported them. I saw Alex Cummings, for instance, condemning lawmakers, including his own party chairman, for taking on something that would have gone to intervene into every aspect of the livelihood of Liberians. And so that is a bold-faced way of dealing with the issue of corruption, because many people want to protect their own and play lip service with it and not being so forceful on it. And so they will claim that it was constitutional, it was legally done by legislative instrument, but at the same time, what we provide for them through the legislative act or through the law is for them to take their pay, not to execute function on behalf of us. That is why we have lists to execute. But because of corruption, because the president will only take lists to where he needs to take lists to, because the president will make sure lists will deliver where he wants lists to deliver, and he will only put money for himself. So the lawmakers are obligated unto themselves to take money unto themselves. And that is why corruption is very key in all of what we are saying. And until we can get rid of that giant-sized enemy and opponent of our country that have existed 175 years, all of the projects and all of the good talking we are doing will take us nowhere.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tough Talking Thursday. We are discussing the state of the nation, Liberia, towards elections 2023. If you want to be a part of this interaction, please call the number on your screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791403. Some of our listeners are weighing in on the state of the nation, and we want to read a few of those. The state of the nation. Well, Tumon Blaze said the state of the nation is bleeding massively. You guys believe that? The state of the nation is bleeding massively. Let me get away with this one. Another person said the state of the nation is on the verge of collapse. Elvis Morris, the state of our nation is certainly in decline. Those are few of Lucini Camara, the state of the nation is messy at all levels. Stephen Johnson, the state of the nation is indeed corrupt. I couldn't agree more. It comes back. Chaos is another beautiful discussion. So we've discussed the state of the nation. We are going into elections. So one big question I know We have some partisans that are going to put on the partisans line. That is perfectly fine. But if voters will vote rationally based on the state of the nation that you have diagnosed, if everything we've said here tonight is true and that's how voters going to vote based on the state of the nation, which presidential candidate or the aspirant or the incumbent you think is going to favor? So keep thinking about that. We want our viewers to also to think about that. And we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to say which aspirant does the state of the nation will describe. If voters will vote based on the state we have described, who do you think they're going to choose? Stay tuned.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
All right, we are talking about the state of the nation here. Flomo say the state of the nation have no sense of direction. So without being partisan here, and it's okay if you want to be partisan, and it's also okay if you want to pass on this one, but looking at the state of the nation, what do you think, or do you think the president, for instance, is working hard to correct what you are saying about the state of the nation? Also, do you think opposition political leaders and parties, do you think they are doing well to be able to be the alternative to the state of the nation that we have described so far? 2 in 1. Let me start with Mr. Coffey this time.
Thank you, Ja. I don't think I don't even, to say I don't think is an understatement. George Weah is not doing good for the country. He's not doing good for the country. He's not doing good for the fight against corruption. The dividend that is permeating our society, he's not doing good for that. I think he's even the chief architect of the things that are going on in the country. If the guy comes up and try to defend the things that are happening at Leges, and he's not taking action, the siphoning of monies and there's big suspicion that money has been, the entity and other entities are being used to siphon money, to transfer money out of the country, and he's not doing anything. If he was called to an interview by a radio station on the issue, on the LACC report on agriculture, and he's saying that he's trying to defend that, and even in that interview, he was thanking the reporter for giving him an information that he doesn't have. So it shows that, one, he's not quorum with the job he has. He's a small boy in a big man role, and that he is the chief architect of the dividend that is happening in the country.
You sound like VP Bwakai. You give us a man's job to a boy.
Yeah, that's something that I always said. It's just coincidental. But coming on the opposition side, whether it's Bwakai, as I call him JNB, or Elizana Benedict coming as I call him ABC, or Terionse Gonglo as I call him TSG, I haven't seen that yet. I hope they will speak out. They will begin to show us that, yes, indeed, they will fight corruption. They will institute good governance. they will institute, they will enforce the rule of law, and all these other things will be added. Healthcare, education, and the rest will be added. I heard JNB on the reloaded, the class reloaded program. I'm listening to the whole thing because I'm following the politics in Liberia keenly. Because I would definitely take a side. I would not be quiet in these elections. So I'm following the candidates. I'm convinced that the current guy is not the right guy, but I'm looking at the opposition. So far, they have not convinced me, but I know they are good guys. They have some good pedigrees. They have some proven track records. But when it comes to the issues that are affecting Liberia, none of them has convinced me yet. Hopefully, they will convince me in the next few months. Like I said, I listened to JMB. I thought there was a guided interview. He was in a friendly territory. He was in a territory that supports him. So, but on the good side, I thought he did well. Other than his other speeches he's been giving, he's been too low and stuff like that. He's not coming up. But this one, his environment he sat in was good. They did a good job in preparing him for that environment, and his voice was loud. Whether he spoke to the issues, but on the flip side, there are things that are happening in the country. He's been quiet on it. He's not taking, the action that an opposition leader should take to put the administration to check. He's not taking those actions. We're not talking about causing chaos or bringing revolt or bringing something else. But there are other positive actions that opposition leaders can take. I see ABC comments. It looks like he's the right. He's a good guy in terms of his background and things like that. But I'm not getting it from him. The understanding of the local politics, I'm not getting that. And quite recently, some of the lists he's been putting out, it leaves much to be desired. It leaves more argument when you're trying to sell yourself to the electorate that don't appear, to want to hawk you, easily, because they feel that you're not there at the time they needed you. You need to sell yourself. You need to build a case, and then when you keep doing the things that will cause more argument, then it makes the case more difficult. Tiawan Gonglo is a good guy. Don't underrate him. He's a good guy. He's been tried and tested, but I think he has a different spot at this time. He should, I think he should align himself to one of these JMB or ABC in the process. That's how I see it. But for now, they are good people, but they have not convinced me yet. But I know, with the passage of time, I could be convinced.
Ahmed, before you come in, let me bring in our first caller. So Ahmed will be the same question. We have a caller here. James Quay, quickly.
Hello.
Hello, James. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, fellow panelists. I appreciate all of what you have said, but I think we have a very big problem because my realization is that it seems to me we are not ready to pull the cow by the horn. Everything you have said, the problem of our country is that we have vested almost all of the power in the hands of the president. So the only person that can fix our situation is if we have a very good person as a president, the person who is, of course, not corrupt, the person who believes in the rules of law, the person who believes in institutionalizing our country. So everything that we are talking about, you could have a good agricultural minister that could come from here and go to Liberia. The person will be polluted by the president. But it takes me by surprise when all of you panelists, well-educated guys, well-articulated guys, are not talking about this one, but you're talking about different things. I am here to tell you that the most important person that we should change in our country to bring a good class is the president. If the president is good, then of course all institutions will be good, in my belief. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So James, before you go, if the president is not good, and you have, let's say, a good sports minister or a good justice minister, what stopped that minister for standing up for what is right? The president?
Well, because the power is vested in the president. The president can use
So let the president fire you.
But Dennis, I also have a question for Jim before he leaves.
Well, it is say because you are here in America, you can get the food on the table. But in Liberia, you don't get food on the table. In Liberia, people are depending on their little bit income per month. So nobody wants to lose their job. So.
Thank you. My panelists have a question for you.
But James, I have a comment for James. But James, basically, you're saying the same thing. Yeah, basically, you're saying the same thing that we're saying, because Boga, the panelists here, said that the issue of our country, even though we talk about different segments of the issues, but we're convinced that the leadership is the problem. Maybe we did not say it the way you're saying it, because the power is invested in the president, but we know that power, because power is invested in the president.
I'm sorry if I misheard you, but the truth about the matter is that we need to be very much precise about this when we say it.
Thank you.
We understand back home that this is what it is like. We don't have to touch it. Let's say it's the president who has the matter and he must solve the issue.
I mean, thank you.
That is why some of us are taking our time this time around to take a side.
Right. I mean, if the legislator, you are a lawmaker elected by people, and you are telling me, oh, the president say I should do it. You are justice minister. You are on the Supreme Court bench, and everybody, there's one president. They can fire you, can die. But let me go to Mr. Salif. Mr. Salif, is based on what you have all spoken about tonight about the state of the nation. Is President, we are doing enough to turn things around? Also, is any member of the opposition or political party doing enough to distinguish themselves as the alternative to unseat President Weah, so that we can restore all the bad things that we say we need to change for the country?
You know, every president does something in office. When in office, in their tenure, it's by nature, it is inherent in the office of the presidency. The power of the presidency requires or almost creates a situation where the most inept, the most incompetent president does something good. So, you know, we should not lose sight of that. This is a whole country we're talking about. And the office of the presidency has enormous powers, particularly in our country. It's a very strong presidency, so-called imperial presidency we're talking about. Specifically to your question, you know, when you speak to the finance minister or people around, maybe the economic management team, they will tell you, look what we've done with GDP. Look what the macroeconomic measures we've taken. Look where, despite the current crisis in the world, you know, the Russia-Ukraine war, the different shocks, COVID, and, you know, having assumed leadership right after Ebola and all of that, and there were different shocks, and still they've managed. The World Bank says some real nice things about this administration, some fiscal discipline in terms of some of the policy, you know, harmonization, for instance, whether they did it right or wrong, some measures they've taken. And so they experience a little bit of growth, you know, but that growth is nothing in terms of GDP if it doesn't trickle down to the bread and butter issues, if it doesn't trickle down a sense of security in the country, you know. And so, you know, I just wanted to lead with that. And then I've always given this analogy, the two analogies I give about leadership, and I have done so here, and I'll do it again tonight, that the leadership, the president, obviously is not the only one who runs the country, right? And so for me, I think the indicator there would be, what is the president doing to identify the right people and put them in the premium seats to lead this bus to the finish line towards 2023 elections. On that score, the president hasn't really impressed me. Not that I have any particular people in mind that I want to see in certain places. I just want to see people who are demonstrably competent and are doing their job, and they're doing it with integrity, and they're doing it well. I'm not seeing that. I mean, in fact, this is a president who hasn't reshuffled at all in the going 4 years. This is a president who we hear tells his friends, "Oh yeah, well, nobody losing their job, yeah, why you worry about it?" That kind of thing, with that kind of cavalier way. So the office of presidency, it's an institution that some presidents learn, some presidents realize while they're in office, some presidents learn about before they get into office, and so they know how to exercise it. I haven't seen that in this president. So if you ask me, is he doing all the right things where the voters to vote as rational voters based on issues, based on the vexing problems of the country and how it's impacting them and their families directly? I would say, that they're not doing what any incumbent who wants to be reelected ought to be doing in terms of the policy side, the governance side. They may be doing dirty politics and doing strategy to dislodge the opposition, to just fend them off and solidify their own position, because if the opposition is weak, you have a weak opponent. Even if you're a terrible leader, you could still get elected, right? I mean, given that this president is a populist, he's a popular individual on his own account. He still remains to be very popular amongst Liberians, despite all the suffering. So put that aside. On the opposition side, look, again, Jim Collins, this guy, I have the book on my shelf here. It's called Good to Great. The guy talks about a leader, the indicator of this leader's sort of thought process, their mental model, their decision-making approaches, right? Is who you see them bring around them. Because Dennis Jar can run FOL all by himself. He doesn't know everything. The people they see appearing on these shows, and it sends the message that Dennis is reaching out. He knows what to do. He knows the kind of programming he wants to do, and therefore he's looking for the experts, the people who can deliver these programming. Now, if you don't demonstrate that to me while you are in the opposition and you're getting ready to govern, you want authority to govern, to me that portends very bad news for the country. For instance, the recent CDC, Mr. Cummings, his so-called Cummings team. I mean, listen, it's just despicable for a leader, so someone who wants to be president of the country, to basically kick victims of this war in their faces, say to damn you, I just want to get elected, okay? And so I do whatever I can. This is what I need to do in this context to get elected. That's the feedback I've gotten from most people I've spoken to. And I pay attention to this. I've spoken to people, right? And then you go on the broadcast side. Come on, you ran for president 2017, you didn't win. You're going again. And you're so lukewarm about where's the energy, where's the enthusiasm, what is that thing they're exuding, right? To show us that they're ready this time around. Vice President Parker, the Unity Party, they are the option. So to close on this, Dennis, an opposition has to demonstrate to the people that they are a better option. Again, how you do that is to show how you are different, show contracts, and give people hope, inspire hope that I'm better because, and here's how. I'm not seeing that. If you ask me, I'm really not. People tell me, man, the old man gets there, you will put it right, people dead. This is also a bunch of people too are waiting to have access to so-called state power in Liberia so they can do their own. Some may be more competent, perhaps a better team than what we have now. I don't know. But the way to know is for them to demonstrate to me now that they're ready, they're thinking, they have strategy, they have plans, and they can put it out there. We can see it, we can critique it, and put them under scrutiny. That is very weak, and therefore the whole presidential field, unfortunately, like that Sierra Leonean woman told me once, that Liberia is lucky with bad luck. this is one of these situations I've seen, right? And that we're really lucky with bad luck, because this is a very uninspiring presidential field in this cycle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gonglo. I'll come to you, but let me hear from Jimmy Eastman. He's been waiting on the line here. Mr. Eastman.
Yes.
What is the state? What is the state of our nation?
Yeah, we're going to have to get set up. The Liberian people. I don't believe in putting my fate, my life and my children and my posterity's life in somebody else's hand. We have to get fed up of this punishment we've been going through. Administration after administration are corrupt. Instead of us putting our foot down, we snuggle up to these corrupt officials and make them king over our lives. Similar thing happened in the U.S. in the 1780s. It had become clear that the government system at that time, they called it the Articles of Confederation, they weren't working. The central government under Articles lacked a strong executive and a method for resolving disputes. So what they did, well, they thought about adding a strong executive branch to the U.S. government. But that might pose an opposite problem, like what we got now. Would an executive wielding the power of the army become too powerful? So what they did, they said, well, they made it so that the divided powers, and even though the executive has the power over the army, only the legislature can declare war. So we have to put our foot down and stop this thing that's going on. We allow it to happen, and next person comes, we prostrate ourselves in front of them, let them abuse power because we want it to get something. We have to say all this has to stop, and until we put our foot down, they will always abuse us.
And Mr. Eastman, like a woman. Mr. Eastman, when you say we, who makes up this we, and how do we put our foot down?
We, the people.
Right. And when you say put our foot down,
talk about issues.
How the people will put their foot down? You have 4 million people. Do we one day get up to put our foot down? How?
Okay, we should be about the issues that affect us, not personalities. A lot of our politics are circled around personalities. What is affecting us? Our children are not getting education. We cannot find jobs. There's no health care. There's no adequate infrastructures like light, power. None of these things are going on in the country. And that should be our issues. Can anyone who says they can do this, let you evaluate them upon that.
Right. Thank you.
Not their personalities and stuff like that.
Thank you. So what will you say is the state of the nation, Mr. Eastman?
We have not hit rock bottom yet. I don't believe in miracles, okay? Like some politicians come. I believe we haven't hit rock bottom. We have to decide that this is not the way we want to live. The Liberian people have to come to themselves. But I see foreign intervention. If you want to, let you know, I see foreign intervention in our near future. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you. Mr. Gonglo, let me go to you. Is President, we are doing enough to turn things around, or do we have an opposition that is in the wing to really distinguish himself or herself as the alternative? Do you see that? Where can we find it? You can unmute, please.
Well, I will say this. In 2017, I was in Monrovia. Actually, I went on the campaign trail, and I listened to President Weah when he visited Nimba. I listened to him when he was in Bond County. I have gone there to see my uncle in Bond, and his message was clear that he loved his people. He would not do anything to harm them. That was the underlying message of President Weah to the voter, that I love my people, I won't do anything to harm you. So he liked me. But see what he has done for the past 4 years, 4+ years. He has done everything to harm the people he said he loved them in 2017. So if he's going to do anything to turn things around, I don't know how he's going to do it, because in government, it's a very slow animal. There are processes you go through to implement policy. Even if you put on new policy today, it takes time for the impact of that policy to be felt. And in a global climate as we see today with Russia-Ukraine war, we don't see a quick end to that. So I don't know how Liberia is going to change even some of the bread and butter issues that are impacting the ordinary people. So I don't see it, because the fundamentals in agriculture, in other areas, have not been put in place. So it's not something you can do overnight. Okay. So I don't see how you're going to change, but I would be happy if President Weah start to do things that will lessen the burden on the less fortunate people. I would be happy. I'm not praying for him to fail. I'm praying for him to make the people live a good life. But that said, on the side of the opposition, like some of the panelists have said this evening, I think the challenge for the opposition really is to actually take the barometer of how Liberian voters are feeling today. I think the burning issue, and I think I'm right on this one, is corruption. Or just tonight, just few panelists gathered together here, we have agreed that corruption is a burning issue. The international community has also agreed that corruption is a burning issue. That's why they sanction government officials. All of the sanctions that have come up are on corruption. Whether it's the one on the senators, they were all talking about pay to play. Whether it's the one on the appointees, the presidential appointees, it's all about bribery. So corruption is going to be the defining issue in 2023. And corruption is actually the defining issue today in Liberia. Either we put corruption in the coffin and nail it, or corruption will end Liberia and make Liberia like a Haiti. What we see in Haiti today didn't happen overnight. It came slowly, historically, and it got to where it is. So we need to take corruption as an existential threat that it either is going to put an end to Liberia. And for me, I followed the track record of some of the opposition leaders. But I can speak on one person. Not to necessarily discount the contributions of other opposition leaders, but if you take Councillor Tiawan Gonglo, he has laid out clear how he's going to fight corruption. He's the first presidential candidate to talk about what? Lifestyle audit, and he means it. Everybody who knows him knows that he means what he said. He's not a typical person who will go and say something that doesn't mean it. He said, if I'm elected president today, I will be audited continuously every 3 months. I will have all the integrity institution to look at what I'm doing. If I'm doing something wrong and they point out that I'm in violation of the law, I will resign. It's a commitment that I'm making to the Liberian voter. No other presidential candidate is making that effort. He is talking about, and he's the only person on record. Others have served in government for many years. They can boast of experience. But he's the only person on record that has traveled, that government gave him staff, DSA, daily assistance allowance. Say you're traveling for 10 days. So here is the money for 10 days. The trip was cut short at day 4. He came back. He said, well, I received money for 10 days. I spent 4 days. I'm returning the 6th day morning because I did not stay there for 10 days.
I heard Kofi Woods also returned money when he went on a trip.
Is he a presidential candidate?
No. You said he's
you say among the presidential candidate, or you say the only government official?
Okay, go ahead.
Among the presidential candidate.
Okay.
He's the person on record of having done that. And you know why he did that? during Ignore time, when times were even difficult. Not even President Salif time when money was in the country. I'm talking about under Dr. Amos Sawyer. As president of the National Bar, he returned money to the bar. And the standard he set in the bar, I've listened to even some lawyers who have fundamental disagreement with him to say, well, we disagree with Gonglo, but the standard he set under the bar leadership is so high that you can't just play around the bar leadership anymore if you're not prepared because of what he did. So for me, if we all agree that corruption is going to be the defining issue in 2023, like Ambla Miami said once on your show, you look for your best commanding general. And I think on fighting corruption, the best commanding general is actually Councillor Tiawan Gonglo. He has a clear message, a clear, undisputable record on how to fight corruption.
Thank you. What many people have said that yes, he's a good man, he can fight corruption, but there's a but, and I don't know if you can tell me how he overcome that but. Like they see him coming late, and then based on other elections, how elections have been, it's very, it has not happened for someone to come from the back to win. So that's why people are saying he should align with somebody else, because even though he's a good guy and he has what it takes to fight corruption, but they don't see the numbers on his side. What do you say to that?
Well, here is what I would say. I think in the state of crisis, human being, I would say they're not smart. Where Liberia is now with corruption, we are in a state of crisis. I think voters are looking for somebody that can trust with their life, with their future. And I think let the voters decide. I would say let the voters decide. And for me, and that's the essence of democracy. So to say, oh, Mr. Coffee is coming late, I don't think there's a strong argument. Because those who say so, they probably may be fearing Mr. Coffee, that this guy might shake the table if we just don't discourage him. He sit here with his anti-corruption credential and message. We might have to change our message to cope with him. And if we have to change our message, then if we get elected, then voters will judge us by what he might push us to the string. So people may be playing scare tactics also and saying, you know what, we don't want to compete with this guy, anti-corruption, credential, and message. You talk about lifestyle audit. I'm hearing some of the presidential hopefuls are talking about lifestyle audit, something they never talked about before, right? So he may push, and that such a discourse is good for the country also.
Thank you. I'll go to Janitor now, but this from your man Clarence Gono from Philadelphia. He said, I should ask you this question. He said, I've been doing research on road development in Liberia, and it seems to me Liberia is on the right track under President Weah with respect to what I have seen so far. Can you please ask Mr. Gonglo how Tiawan is going to beat President Weah on this in a hypothetical presidential debate? A theoretical president versus a pragmatic president, which is better according to your panelists, thinking in the case of Liberia presidential leadership? And that question is not just for Mr. Gonglo, but for all of you. But let me go to Janitor on this one. Is we are going to do enough to turn things around? And the next question is, do we have any presidential candidate for you, Mr. Cummings, distinguishing himself enough to be that alternative to Weah based on the diagnosis that we gave tonight?
I think in a human way of answering this question, firstly, I think there are too many individuals other than Weah that can do probably better than Weah. But I would single Mr. Cummings out because they were a hill phone. I follow him very closely. But let me say, Dennis, and to all of us on this platform, including the audience, when you are sick, when you are ill, you look for nurses, you look for doctor, you look for a healthcare practitioner to diagnose what you are sick of and then prescribe medication to that. You don't go on an operation and seeking a carpenter to come treat you, it is obvious that he will be using hammer and nails. That is the condition of our country under President Weah. And it is pathetic. It is pathetic because we have gone through this for 175 years. Like someone said on this platform, we saw a little enhancement of civilization under Madam Salif, and then again it went back again to the status quo. And then under President Weah, it had gone further, it had dissipated, you know, in a very bad condition. So it puts burden on all of the opposition leaders to make miracle of the dreadful life Liberians have lived over the period of time. And so people now expect so much of the opposition, then it should be realistically measured by. That's the condition that we find ourselves. However, Mr. Ellis Cummings came into the politics 18 months to 2017 elections. On his agenda was the issue of corruption. He hammered corruption. He spoke about a court being established, a specialized court, to expedite the issue of corruption. He spoke about a task force that should deal with the issue of corruption. And we all have realized on this platform that until we can deal with corruption, all of the developmental agenda that we are proffering will almost be impossible to have an effective gain or return on the livelihood of our people. So Alex Cummings had said again that he's not a traditional politician. So when people say go to the Senate, he said, what would make a change in the Senate? He said he's not a traditional politician because he will not only wait for election time to talk about the things that are affecting the country and talk about the solutions, not just about the why, but about how to fix it. So since 2018, since the election time, he came to Liberia, he had kept being engaged with the government. He have proffered suggestions to President Weah, and he have condemned President Weah as to where he had gone wrong. Not only condemn, but provide solutions as to how to deal with this issue of corruption and good governance. And what have been his engagement on corruption? What are those postulates that hangs around corruption? Waste in government. Today we listen to the issue of the censor. Government is receiving money from donors, at the same time receiving money from the budget. So that means the money that should be going to from the budget that should be going to other sectors is also executing the same function. So how is it benefiting our people? That is waste in government. How can we cut down on those wastes, making government entity bureaucratic, complex for people to understand? And so because of that, people can chip and steal along the way. This is what got us to where we are. And the only way to deal with these things is to be pragmatic, is to be practical, is to live the life. And to live the life is to hold you accountable. But
Mr. Dolake,
yeah.
Unlike Councillor Gonglo, VP Boakai, and we are now, or let's say, unlike other presidential candidates who have worked in Liberia for so long and have the track record, there is not much to measure when it comes to Mr. Cummings. So he doesn't have that history of working in Liberia that we can look at and say, this is what he's going to do. So all we can look at is the decisions he's made or what he has done since he started running. Some of the decisions, what has Mr. Cummings done in Liberia to prove to us that we can look at and say, yes, he is the one to make the difference when he's given power. I'm not talking about what he did in America or Nigeria with Coca-Cola or Pepsi. I'm talking about in Liberia. What can we look at to tell us that, yes, he's the one and he can do exactly what you are saying?
Yes, you know, Mr. Cummings had not worked in government. At one hand, we claim that he has not worked in government. When it comes to condemning all of the past government and what the associated items of government. Then we place Mr. Cummings in BWI in order to place it in a basket that he also work in government and he should take responsibility of it. But very importantly, Mr. Cummings, as a private citizen, had thought it wise that while we want to combat corruption, we also have to provide an avenue of education for our. He had been very forceful. Today, the African Methodist Episcopal University, and through his investment and contribution to that university, its graduate program have been named after him. Those are ways that you contribute to your country. Today, while he was serving on the BWI, because the gap in our country is not just tertiary education, but it's also emphasis on vocational education. He has made immense investment into BWI, Nima Community College, that people are condemning him for contributing to Prince Johnson. He has invested hundreds of thousands of United States dollars into the engineering department.
So Mr. Dulake, are you saying we should look at, to be president, to tell us that Mr. Cummings is able to fight corruption, Mr. Cummings is able to attract investors, Mr. Cummings is able to provide or strengthen our integrity institutions? We should look at his role or the money that he has given to the community college. We should look at what he's done on BWI. Is that what you're telling me?
No, that's not what I'm saying. So to judge anybody, you have to judge them of the past. Right. So Mr. Cummings has looked in the face of our judicial system when others lied on him, when others felt that he should just succumb to the situation because he won political power and accept it as against his will. He looked into the face of his opponents. He looked into the face of the governing structure and said that this is a blatant lie and I will defeat it. And he used it to stand up tall to the court and to those who are prosecuting him. By that, it gave him an inclination about the low depth and the gaps that should be met should he assume national leadership. These are things and practical ways by which Mr. Cummings can measure Mr. Cummings' governance style. And so today, in the Minsky report, that should judge all of us, that should serve as a benchmark for our governance structure, it says our Solicitor General was prosecuting opposition leaders without facts against their will for political reasons. So if he should assume national leadership, he will understand. More than that, you see the national legislature. He has a chairman there. The legislature passed an instrument. The instrument says that legislature should take 30,000. That is a legal instrument. But Mr. Cummings being so brave, knowing that he needs legislature, he looked into their faces and said that this is not healthy for our people. This is a form of corruption. But indeed, the legislators in the majority are justifying it as a legal instrument. So it is not normal for anyone to look into lawmakers' faces. I want you to point at one political leader, one standard bearer who has looked up to his political his senators and representatives and said this is unwanted and he resent it.
Thank you.
No, but wait now, Jonathan, let me ask you a question. All that plenty thing talking Jonathan,
yeah.
We that on a fan, we that on a fan that's all here.
Yeah.
So they are maybe talking about here.
Yeah.
All that thing talk about the time he wanted to be president. All that thing when he do that when he talking about that time where he not want to be president yet. Where's on the thing that where he do where on the ground? That is some where on it was some we the banana beginning that the question that we asking.
No, but you not bring a conversation to a real level of talk now.
Yeah,
very kindly.
Before he left the whole that thing, the time he was in Nigeria, the time the war was fighting, or the time the Buddha was fighting.
Hold on, Mr. Coffee. Let me bring in my caller. This is Jonathan will ask. Jonathan is not representing ANC tonight, so don't push into her.
No, but no, answer that question.
You answer it. Let me bring in Atlanta-based Mr. Amos Judge, our former election commissioner here. Mr. Judge.
Dennis, how you doing?
Good. Go ahead. What's the state of the nation?
Look, Liberia is at a crossroad. Very serious. But let me start out with the opposition first. The three leading people in the opposition, Pierre,
Boaga and Cummings, they are very good gentlemen. But what I'm seeing from them, they are very weak. They are not forceful in flagging the issue that confronting the Liberian people. Take for instance, 14 years we are now had the census, and the Constitution demands that every 10 years. But no opposition has even challenged the executive to take them to court, to show court why they have not conducted the census. What is that? You have to test the system. We can't say the court is not functioning when we are not testing it. Look at the recent red issue. Nobody will come out to question the government why this is happening to opposition. And how do you want to rule Liberia when there are critical issues? When you people saying that you'll be the voices of the people and cannot question the government, cannot speak on behalf of the people, then I find it very difficult to understand how they will rule the country. We are complaining that George is not a good communicator. The whole entire thing, we complain. In the opposition, issue that is supposed to raise flag on, they are not addressing those issues. Then I wonder, where are we heading?
Thank you.
So these are issues I have. The next one is the issue of President Weah. President Weah is not serious to fight corruption. And because of that, he has a backing from the national legislature. The speaker, the president pro tem, the deputy speaker, they don't bring people to question them in this red saga. Why did they not bring the business to the final one that is shortage of rights? Why did they not bring the Minister of Commerce to question the minister? The minister is there with the president of the party because they all are for the same party. Listen to the president, I think yesterday what he said about corruption. The people everybody is supposed to have a freedom of right, freedom of just, movement. But here's the thing here. The anti-corruption bill has recommended these people from LICIT. They have investigated and submitted a report that these people mismanage some funds. All the person needs to do is to call him Minister of Justice and tell these people, nobody seems like you just grab people and chunk them in jail. But what the president is doing, he's quietly moving around. How can we move this country forward? This is the biggest question. So my last figure is, we interviewed Mr. Cummings one time. He said that he went at LBDR before the war. He said that LBDR was the bank that he worked in before he left Liberia. So the issue here, and JNB, I listened to an interview yesterday, hey, let JNB go on friendly station outside of our backs. And then be asking a follow-up question because yesterday they were supposed to leave.
And I raised that question, but they say he has been on 50-50, he has been on Truth FM, he has been on ELBS.
But why you don't cover any other network?
Yeah, and those are not friendly stations, they say. They didn't play cussing me yesterday when I raised that issue. But thank you, Mr. Josh.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Mame.
He asked the question. It was important.
No, that man needed to answer someone a question, right?
Okay.
No, that was Jojo. You can't
We're going to have Mr. Cummings will appear here.
Yeah, that can be
the 1 minute. I beg you, less than 1 minute. Please,
Mr. Cummings will come next week, so we can ask himself. You're not representing ANC, so
exactly. Then you bring all the other candidates and the people here.
Right. Then the conglomerate will come.
No, but y'all not the same question. 2004.
The question was raised. The question was raised. I mean, obviously,
to the government hospital.
Let Dolake answer. Let's see, even for a minute. Let him just say something. There's
2004. It was not election time. Alice Cummings contributed immensely to the government hospital through medical facility with continuance to the Buchanan Hospital. Alice Cummings had been engaged with the CWA programs years before coming to Liberia. Called Ebola time, he came down with jet into Liberia, supporting the efforts of the fight against Ebola. using the Coca-Cola as a means of focus on Liberia. So there are too many things, but I just like to say that this is not the right time, but I just like to chip in on that. Thank you.
He also donated to our community center here in Atlanta. Mr. Mame.
Yeah, what's the question?
The question here is Mr. Weir, because we have discussed the state of the nation, corrupt, weak, fragile, hungry, and so forth. Is Mr. Weir doing enough to turn it around? And on the flip side, do we have an opposition leader who has distinguished himself or herself, has that alternative to right the wrong and take our country out of the hunger, corruption, chaos, and all the rest of the 9 years?
Weir understands nothing. Weir has no intention. Weir has no steam to fight corruption or to enforce good governance in Liberia. He's completely out of the realm of possibility and option for the country. It's sad to say so, especially after serving 5 years, but that's just the reality. Weir has no intention to fight corruption. You can see the evidence just there. The U.S. government sanctioned his minister of state. You saw how long it took him to suspend the man. As I speak to you, McGill's office is locked and he has the key. Nobody enters there. That the extent to which the president accommodates, tolerates corruption. You saw the issue with the Ministry of Agriculture. Your anti-graft institution indict your minister. And his response was the GSC, the LACC investigative report is not a court indictment, so he can't take any action. These leges that we complain of today that are leading us into crisis was indicted, the head of leges, they were indicted by the LACC for corruption, broad day, no action taken. And they're leading the country into crisis. They can't manage few people they recruited. Think about how they will manage complex data coming from across the country. Corruption, incompetence. So Weir is out of the option for Liberia. Before, when he was in opposition, he was a darling child. We saw him as an alternative. His service to the country has demonstrated that he has created more harm than any other president did. So he's out. When we're looking for alternative, and one thing I would like to, say to the other opposition colleagues on the other side, and people who, Leman Bowie highlighted this, and it's trending, but we need to talk about it more. George Weah should not be evaluated as a good president or as a good president that deserves re-election, or a bad or failed president that deserves to be rejected. He should not be evaluated on those two bases on the account of whether opposition come together or not. Opposition coming together is not the measure of the performance of Weah. That reasoning for me is below the belt. That if opposition come together and form a ticket, therefore Weah did not perform, or Weah is equal to Weah did not perform and should therefore be rejected. If opposition political parties do not come together, then it equal to Weah perform, so he should be re-elected. I don't go by that. And we should begin to tell our people that opposition coming together is not a measure of performance of Weah government. Weah should be measured on what he promised and what he delivered. He promised to fight corruption. Did he do it? He promised to improve your life. Did he do it? He improved his life more than he improved the lives of the people. So let's not stop telling our people. Let's begin to stop telling our people that if opposition don't come together, then George Weah will win the election. George Weah winning election should be on his record. There are good people in the opposition. There are alternatives in the opposition that we can rely on to change the system. We support Gonglo. All of us sat here on this conversation. whether today or tomorrow. It's a consensus of intellectuals. It's a consensus of ordinary Liberians that the fundamental root cause to our problem, the headwind that facing us from progressing, is corruption. You can talk all the good strategies. You can talk all the good agricultural investment plans. If we cannot address corruption, we will not move forward. Why should we take risks with Alexander Cummings to fight corruption for us when we have somebody who has track record, demonstrated capability to fight corruption? Why should we take risks at such a critical time with Bwaka, to fight corruption for us? When he seems tired and not having the energy enough to really fight corruption as vigorous, and demanding the energy we require to fight corruption. You have to be alert to be able to fight corruption. So why would you leave Gonglu, who has everything it takes to fight the problem the country is confronted with? Why would you want to not take him but take risks with other people? I said this on the show before. Whether it was in the time of the Bible, when people are making decisions, when God decided to say, okay, let me go and decide who should we take to take the children of Israel. He made a decision. He said, I will go down and take Moses. That was a decision, because at that point he was looking for somebody who willing to put his life on the line for his friend. And that is Moses' characteristic. In America, when people were talking about how can they address the issue about race and bringing black and white together, the Democrats decided to use Obama as that torchbearer to bring the black community together so that they can face the white community in unison. And not that they were not other candidates, but that moment demands the character that the Democrats elected. You can go across history. There has been time where when a country is faced with problem, you take your best to confront that problem. Our best at this moment to fight corruption in Liberia is Gonglo. It's not any other person. I'm not discounting that Kumi can fight corruption or Bwaka can fight corruption. But of the three, Kumi's, Bwaka, corruption, who can we trust to fight corruption? It's Gonglo. The reason why people keep saying Gonglo is a latecomer is because they're missing something. If you see the pattern of Liberian in recent time, their approach has been to go quiet in silence. So they remain silent. All the things that are happening, most people you talk to, outside the people who call on the show to build their alliances and talk about who they support, people support Gonglo a whole lot.
Thank you.
And gradually, as we move our campaign from awareness to mobilization, people will begin to see the supporters who believe that this is our time. This is our moment in history to fight corruption that we all determine and decide it's the greatest threat to our country.
Thank you so much. Let's have a few announcements here. This Sunday, I'm going to be interviewing somebody, Anthony Dashwood Morgan, who is an aspirant going against Yeke Koluwa. So the topic is, will aspirant Anthony Dashwood Morgan make Yeke Koluwa a one-term president? Tune in to Focus on Liberia this Sunday at 6 p.m. for the show with Mr. Anthony Morgan. He's the aspirant. We also have Dr. and Mrs. P. Vulule. That's Dr. P. and Karis Vulule. They have a scholarship program for grades 5 through 12. It starts October 17, 2022 to January 15, 2023. So you can go on the website, www.drpcvf.org, or contact the number drpcvf.org. That's contact at that email. Also, you can contact Focus on Liberia, and we'll be able to give you the numbers for Dr. Peter Vulule, so you can call for more details on this scholarship. You don't want to miss that. Every Friday, we have the literary hour at 6 p.m. Don't miss the literary hour at 6 p.m. Every Tuesday at 7, we have Abby Tyler's Healthy Living. Every Sunday at 4 p.m., we have On Point, where our guests debate critical issues. Every other Saturday at 7 p.m., we have the Liberia History Channel with historian Carl Family. You don't want to miss this exciting show. Gentlemen, thank you so much for shedding light on the state of the nation tonight. I really enjoyed it. We never close without doing our Tabata session. Tabata in Southeastern language means complete foolishness. Always there's some Tabata going on somewhere. Let me start with Mr. Admiral Salif for his Tabata of the night. Mr. Salif, what's the Tabata you've seen so far?
Oh man, you put me on the spot of the Tabata, Can you go around and come back? Let me think about
Jonathan is smiling, so you guys Tabata ready. Go ahead, Jonathan. What's your Tabata of the week?
My Tabata of the week is the recording of the Lincoln Villages, a development hub, that people are eating money, stealing money anyhow, and placing the country behind. That's my Tabata, receiving money from donors, receiving money from government at the same time for the same purpose. I think one time we had a budget before, two budget for one purpose during Maurice settlement time. And we're having that joke as university student. I think that's the kind of scenario that we are having now today. So that's my Tabata for the week.
Thank you. Let me go to Alex.
Yeah, I have a Tabata. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out whether this story is true, but it's on. I got it from the OK FM 99.5.
The story true. That real Tabata there.
It reads, the Coalition for Democratic Change has issued a mandate saying all presidential appointees in government should report to the party headquarters on a daily basis after working hours. The question that comes to mind is that the Tabata that comes to mind is, what's going on? Has CDC lost it, or are they losing it to the extent that they're not demanding presidential appointees to report to HQ? I mean, CDC was a party that people used to print their own T-shirt. People just used to come, and now you're mandating presidential appointee to come to the party headquarters every day after work.
I think it's more than that. Even people who receiving money and all can go there, who are on contract. Because I saw the picture, I saw St. Jackson in the picture.
Oh, he
was there. He was at CDC. Are you seeing the picture? You see.
Oh, they actually went there today.
Samuel Jackson was there. He's in the picture. Sam Jackson was there.
Is a picture on Facebook or something?
No, why you say that statement was made at the event that St. Jackson was seated. That's why you trying to say.
Mr. Ambula, what's your Tabata of the night of the week?
Man, my Tabata for the week, we just end up with the whole St. Jackson thing, So my Tabata for the week at St. Jackson, papi, like all of papi, we know what happening. We can't, talk all the details, but when the papi come across some time and want to present himself like this, expert in everything, and he been only working to just get knowledge to government, government institution, and not being an employee. So since I had information about his role in the previous government, especially with the local, so I said, wait, let me tell the papi what I know. So I said, hey, papi, you were consultant to local, quote unquote consultant. But I get the information. Somebody the person put the information up, about his consultancy. So he wanted to deny. Yeah, I established NUCA, 2002 law. We wrote the law, blah blah blah. So what wrong with that? They go from back and forth. Then I came here. I said, no, we're not talking 2002. We're talking during Ellington. You're consulting. We're not talking that 2002. We're talking Ellington. You're consulting. He said, yeah, I got my TOR. I get my TOR, they'll pay me 5,000. What wrong with that? I said, no, you are not consulting. You were used as a bridge for bribe. You were used as a bridge, for bribe. So, just talking about, how the papi can carry himself all the time and stuff like that. He bragging about TOR, but then we say, papi, since you get a TOR, just tell all the report that you were submitting on the TOR for which you are taking 5,000 a month. We go on move 1 week now, the report can come outside, only the TOR we can see.
So that's your Tabata.
Yeah.
Let me go to Mr. Gonglo. Mr. Gonglo, you still Clarence Gonos had a question for you. We'll come back to that, but let's hear your Tabata of the night, of the
Well,
week.
my Tabata of the week would be the President. We are answer to the journalist, the president of the nation. When the journalist asked him question, he said, "Thank you for giving me that information," and information about his ministry. Because these ministers that are appointees of the president, they are just nothing but an extension of the job the president is doing. So if something is happening and a journalist is asking, and a grave issue that is in public view and the president does not know, we can also reflect that on the AACC thing. When the AACC made report, which was public, the president also said no report was on his desk, even though the report of the AACC was in the newspaper, and the AACC held press conference, and they said the report has been submitted to the executive. The president also said he was not aware when the journalist asked him. So for me, if a president of a nation is not aware of what is happening in his ministry, even issues are in public view, it does not make sense to me for him to be president still.
Thank you. Mr. Salif.
I think I found my Tabata. So my cousin sent me this video and I even saw on social media, right? So the police is trying to arrest okay, let me just read it. So the guy wrote in like, Mr. Police trying to arrest a car in Miami this morning. And the car, then the driver then tried to take the police to Chicago. So basically, then the police ended on the hood of the vehicle. Yeah.
And the car is speeding away.
Yes, sped away from you.
Miami.
Yes.
How did he get on top of the car?
He was pleading now for the driver to please let him down.
So Dennis, he was standing from the car and they holding on to the car.
Yeah, he was holding on to the
So the driver decided, you were laying on the car and you fell on top of the car, on the hood of the car.
He actually climbed on the hood, and then the driver said, "Oh, you're not moving my car." He picked up with him, and then instead of begging the driver then to just let him go. So I mean, it's
last in Miami.
Yeah,
Vivian Powerhouse said Matabata for the night is coming refusal to go into the house, but only wants to be president by fire by force, according to Mr. Jonathan Dolake. Sam Wallow, my greatest Tabata this week is the inability of presidential candidate to make political alignment based on shared values grounded in ethics and moral convictions. My Tabata too is President Weah went to West Point. I mean, West Point have a lot of issues. But normally our politicians, they always have their issue packaged in their hands and carried to the people. So with everything in West Point, he's talking about football, stadiums, like people in West Point, if you build soccer place there, this is how, like people should be like me because I started from the playground and I'm here today. So go play football. I believe that was complete Tabata. Doris Thompson said, my Tabata is corruption. Corruption is too much in Liberia and nothing is being done. So, Mr. Gonglo, quickly answer Dr. Gono's question. Let me bring that back. Dr. Gono is saying, President Weah is there already and doing these things. So it's one practical person doing it and then the pragmatic. So you should compare Dr. Councillor Gonglo and President Weah. And we talk about a hypothetical debate. it's too long, but that's why I summarize it.
Well, here is what I would say to this. You know, what Dr. Gono probably has not realized is every nation, there are defining moment, defining issue in every nation. In 2002, I was working for the Carter Center in Kenya as an international election observer, long-term election observer for the Carter Center. The issue in Kenya at the time was corruption. Not that the Moi regime was not investing in education. Kenya was not producing young medical doctors in their towns, in the tens of thousands every year, sending them to Namibia, South Africa to go work instead of working in Kenya. The government was doing all that. But the government, the Kanu administration has still law in power. And they have become complacent with power. They were very corrupt. So the opposition swept power. Okay, they won majority seat. So today in Liberia, corruption is a key thing. Corruption is the one that is killing the nation. It's not building road. If you build road, look at the level of accidents that take place on the road. Because cars are plying the road that are not even road worthy. Because police can't even take them out of the road because of corruption. The police get the police more money, and they take this makeshift car put on the road, go and kill people, right? Passengers who only trying to get to that destination to either put bread on the table or their family. But the police is not even doing the inspection. So corruption is the defining moment that is an existential threat to Liberia today. And that is the defining issue for 2023. It's not road.
Thank you, Mr. Gonglo.
Yeah,
Someone challenged Gono actually
on the flip side of that. Gonglo. I'm sorry, Gonglo. On the flip side of that, in addition to what you're talking about, let Gono. The guys that are making an argument about road, let them show me the statistics of the roads that we have, constructed, right? This whole euphoria about, first of all, the roads project, community road projects, farm to market road projects that were already started under the Ellen government, finance, money secured for those projects. A lot of those projects were started, and Mr. Wea came, and those projects were completed. So he went to dedicate them and having all these big programs and ascribing that to himself. Let them show me which roads, new roads that they started, they secured the financing, and they completed under his regime. The one example that has been disastrous right now that is causing problem, which even somewhere the RIA road,
Coastal Highway.
Okay, coastal highway and things they were trying to build, where they were bringing the Iboma and Eton money, which was started into the corruption anyway, because the whole intent was to push that money down to corrupt it. So
thank you.
It didn't come true. So let them show me the statistics for projects road projects, new road projects that we have started, finance, secure the finance, and they completed.
Mr. Salih, when you were talking about Mr. Cummings having appointed people, Andrew on his team, Andrew is saying, what are you talking about? Who are you to exclude other Liberians from partaking in the election process?
That's the mentality, the who are you mentality, right? Look, because Mr. Cummings has presented himself as a presidential candidate, he wants to be president of our country, we scrutinize him. We scrutinize his decisions. I'm not excluding anyone. I'm not saying nobody should support any candidate or nobody should run for office or participate in the electoral process. People should listen when others talk. I mean, it's easier to just jump at somebody's throat. That's not what I said at all. What I said was, look, Mr. Cummings came as a different type of candidate. He said that he was above the fray. He came to do things differently. Liberia is corrupt. Liberia is sort of like a cesspool, and he was there to clean it up. Cleaning it up is not yeah, in my view, to present individuals that have questionable characters and others, not just me. The Truth Commission report is there that these individuals are mentioned in, and Liberians have been, it's been out there since it came. They've been trying to defend it, and it's indefensible. So it's not me. And my comment wasn't to suggest that somebody is excluded. My comment was about a presidential candidate who has constituted a political organization that will lead him to the presidency, and the people who are running that organization, some of them have questionable characters, as documented in the Truth Commission report.
Thank you. Ferguson 1 year said, my tabata is when all your guests are all oppositions singing the same song, I believe he wants to say. Sad night for focus on Liberia. Gentlemen, again, thank you so much for your time. At this time, I need at most 1 minute to give your closing statement as we are 17 minutes after our time. Mr. Mame, let's start with you. Your closing comments, sir.
The state of the country is the country is hungry. We have made our people hungrier than he made them in 2018. Our reliance on food from outside Liberia costing us over 200 million a year because our agricultural sector has failed to provide the food we need. The sector has failed because the president has tolerance for corruption and incompetence. The managers of the sector prioritize large-scale agricultural investment in export commodities, and they have abandoned smallholder farmers who are producing food crops.
Thank you.
The evidence is all over. Until we can have a leader committed to fight corruption and use evidence to drive change, we can move forward. And that's why we support Gonglo, who we know has a character. We don't want to take risks with Bwaka or Cummings. Even though they might fight corruption, but we are convinced that Gonglo will do it better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dolake, your closing, sir.
Thank you so very kindly. The state of our country is in a deplorable condition than it has ever been before under President Weah. Thanks to our international partners through the external credit facility, the special drawing rights from the IMF that are contributed immensely in the hundreds of millions in order to reduce inflation and help our economy to build up. But unfortunately for us, President Weah and his gang of bandits are stealing out the wealth of the country, and they are also defacing the reputation of every Liberian. Importantly, to end up, Mr. Ellis Cummings fits in the condition as a person from the private sector who understands how to negotiate on behalf of the private sector, as well as protecting the interests of Liberians. And he's going to fight war, economic crime code establishment. He's in for it. Out of the 44 people on his listing of initial team coming support war economic crime code, they are vouched to face their accuser where necessary and to be able to vindicate themselves. The war economic crime code is meant for two purposes. One, those who were lied on and those who committed those crimes. So until they can be held under the mercy of that law, we must give them the time to exercise their political franchise. Thank you so very kindly.
Thank you, Mr. Gonglo.
Thank you, Mr. John. In short, I would say, and I would just repeat what I said earlier, the state of the nation is in chaos. The African Union, the World Bank, the UN, all global institutions have agreed that corruption is more dangerous than even civil war. Corruption does kill more people than civil war. And in Liberia, corruption is killing more people. Our people are dying in the hospital, they're dying in car accidents because police is taking bribes and cars that are not roadworthy have been allowed to plow the road. Cars are breaking down the highway and people with no visible light, cars are rushing into parked trucks. We have seen many examples of that and people have died. So corruption today is a threat to Liberia's survival. After 175 years, we are at a point where corruption is either going to end us as a nation or we fight back. in 2023 is a moment for Liberians to fight by. We need to look for our corruption general, our anti-corruption general, to lead Liberia into that front. And that will be my closing statement.
Thank you. Sam Wallace said, I advise your brother to be smart and strategic. He doesn't have a direct path to the presidency in 2023. VP Bwaka gives him the best and most certain opportunity to get there. Do it and be done. And the same thing yourself, VP Bwaka gave Cummings, and you see when.
Wait a minute. Can I respond to Sam Wallow?
Yes.
Quickly, Sam, I will say this to you. You see, it's not easy to make the argument you're making. I think Councillor Gonglo, when he appeared on Spoon, he was very clear that he was open to dialogue with other political leaders. Okay, and I think Councillor Gonglo has made an overture openly and even in private to some of the leaders in the political in the opposition, but because of the standard he's setting, that I'm looking for a collaboration that will revolve around the issues. Do we have people who will commit themselves to lifestyle audit, that they should be audited? Do we have people who are committed to saying the first 100 days, we need to stop the exploitation of wrong laws? After 175 years, we need to produce wood. We don't need to import furniture in Liberia anymore. We need to.
Mr. Gonglo,
so
are you saying the councillor is open to become vice president or somebody?
Dialogue does not mean you are open to be vice president. Dialogue means we're going to find a common ground on what are the defining issues in the country.
Thank you. Let me read two more comments and then I come, Mr. Salif. Stephen Johnson said, the only unity you need is for the people to unite around a candidate and not the politicians uniting. Did the opposition unite in Kenya for Ruto to win? Mr. Salif, let's get your closing comments, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. This is such a monumental topic tonight. It's so very important that we engage in these kinds of civil discourses about our country and do the introspection, look inside ourselves, be honest into ourselves. The issues we outlined tonight, to me, at the end of the day, boils down on governance. And governance, not just a matter of cliche. There are some very simple metrics that other countries, our size, our characteristics sort of have done, are doing stuff about. We need to do things about, lawfulness. How do we really become serious about rule of law? How do we become serious about, everybody talks about corruption. They will not be eliminated. No African country can brag that they've eliminated corruption, or even other middle-income countries in Latin America and Middle East and other countries that we know they've tried. Some of them are doing better. That's not to say, okay, corruption is a good thing, but we have to be realistic, right? However, we can do something to put a dent on it, because it's a massive cancer on our ability to aspire, ability to grow. So when we engage in these conversations, because we know, we've seen, we've traveled, we've studied, we partner with others from other countries, that there are some basic things that Liberians are capable of doing so that Liberia can move to the next level. Our people do not deserve to be in abject conditions as they're in. Of course, it's not that everything is so terrible in the country that Liberia is just such a disastrous place to be. That's not what some of us are suggesting at all, because I always say it's a whole country. There's a whole lot happening in our country, a lot of good happening in the country as well. But the country ought to be in a place that it is not at this point, and that's why we're arguing, and that takes visionary, bold leadership backed by realistic actions to do things that we believe are doable.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Coffey for your closing.
Yeah, let me do something unorthodox here. Let me speak to Josh. We are in a language that we usually spoke. Mane, nyepera kunkona seme beri tueti.
Can I interpret?
Nyei jireni na dowi ye nyombo parakli. not bad thing. That's all I have to say.
And what you say to the Liberian people in closing?
I said, let me speak in simple English. If you hear what the people work, put it down. Let one of the other people that are looking for A, let it take it. Let it take that trouble and carry it. Lead a team. Get in chance, let it take it. Put the people work down.
Siobele Tweti, that's the word of Mr. Ellis Coffee to his friend and brother, Josh Maniwea. Thank you again, gentlemen. I want to thank all those for watching and even those who will watch later. Keep it here at Focus on Liberia, where we discuss the issues, nothing but the issues. Again, we thank all those who keep supporting us. We want to do more, and we are counting on your support. At this time, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Whether you believe we are not able to job, you should step aside, or you believe he's the right person, or you think it's Gonglo, or Cummins, or Boakai, or Ben Finn, or even me. We are all Liberians, and we must do whatever it takes to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our